If only the viewers could see our setup right now, our camera setup. Should I go left or at the
Go
left?
straight and then make a left.
Welcome to the Let's Talk Footy podcast. This is a weird one,
Yeah.
because we're in a car. I'm here with my friend and I guess ex-colleague,
Yeah.
Arsh, who is a football coach. I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why do you coach football? Soccer.
I guess it's a very easy question to answer because I love the game.
Speak louder. You love the game?
Mic check. Yeah, because I love the game. Like, I'm passionate about the game. I played it as a kid. I still play it, and it's because I cannot play at a higher level. I want to get into coaching. Maybe coach at a higher level someday.
Okay. So it's similar to why I started coaching,
Mhm.
and I guess a lot of coaches we know.
Yep.
We love the game. We played it a bit when we were younger. A lot of us still do. I don't.
Yeah.
And because we didn't get to play at a high level, our passion took us to coaching, and we all have the ambition to coach at higher levels. Or some people just want to coach in development, grassroots. Some people just want to coach their kids, which is an interesting topic. We should talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coaching your own kid. But okay, that's good.
But again, like, this is one of those professions where you need to be really passionate about the sport or the thing that you're doing, right? I guess that's why most of the people that get into coaching, they love the game, and I don't think you can do this unless and until you yourself have the passion or the love for the game.
Okay, sure. But passion, just passion itself is not enough.
No, of
You
course.
need to have the knowledge of the game. You need to. So this is 27.
Yes, this is IV 27.
Okay. So you need to have passion. Obviously, you need to care about the game.
Yeah.
But you also need to have knowledge about the game.
Yeah.
And you need to have knowledge about the game as a teacher of the game, as a coach.
Yeah.
Because I know personally a lot of people that are good players, but they would never make a good coach because they will not be able to transfer what they know to a youth player or to a kid or to any player, really. And I think we've both seen that quite
Yes.
a bit.
So yeah, that's the starting point. But after that, how do you build your own craft? How do you improve yourself to be able to impart that knowledge that you have gained over the years through playing or through being coached under someone? And how do you keep learning every time? And I think uh, it also comes down to your mindset as a person, right? Do you want to learn? Do you want to keep learning? Because unless and until you don't have it within yourself, you won't be able to help the kids become better at football if you yourself don't know how to learn and become better at things that you might not be naturally good at.
Why is it important to continue learning? Is it because the game is changing, or is it because you want to continuously improve at coaching? Like, what's the purpose of continuous education?
Yeah, so of course the game is changing as well, but continuous education or continuous improvement does not just have to do with the game, but a lot to do with you as a person. Because if you want to uh, get better or get new ideas into your coaching, or if you want to help different types of people, it's really important for you to keep learning, because the times are changing, the kids are changing, everybody's growing, there is a new generation coming. So you need to constantly update yourself, and it's not just about football, it's about life in anywhere, in any profession that you go in. Things are changing. Like, if I give you an example, I work in IT, right? And right now the biggest thing that's there is gen AI, generative AI. So if organizations need to compete or keep their businesses running, they need to adopt this technology, just like everybody else is. And if you don't, then you just fall behind it. So similarly, as a coach, you need to update, you need to learn, because you are teaching a wide variety of players. So you need to know them. Then you also need to keep yourself updated about the sport, the game that is changing. There are different ideas that keep coming. So I guess that's why you need to.
You talked about self improvement to be able to keep up.
Yep.
So that you can be the best you can be for the players that you are leading and you're teaching and you're coaching.
Yeah.
And this takes us to growth mindset versus
Fixed mindset.
fixed mindset, which
Yep.
is something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And I guess if we expect our players to have a growth mindset,
Yeah.
we need to lead as an example. We need to have that growth mindset.
Yes. And I think a big part of growth mindset is also that you're not uh, worried about the final outcome, but you're more worried about the, not worried, I would say, but you're more ingrained in the process to become better, right? So it's like a commitment to yourself that you're making, that every day you're just going to help yourself become better and better and better. And of course, not every day you will grow, but then on the days you don't grow, you still keep working. So what I'm trying to get to is, as a coach, if I'm talking to you from coach's point, if my main objective is to develop players, I need to be focused on the process of developing players and not be too worried about the result that comes at the end of the week, right? Maybe because we are coaching at the youth level, not always you're not always going to win. So you should not associate winning with
Growth and
growth.
development.
Yeah, so there are two different things. Yes, winning, I feel and I believe in, winning is like the byproduct of what you put in, and not something that you should obsess over. You should be obsessed with the process to get better. And yeah, just to add to it, like, what
Well,
is,
hold on, wait. That's okay. This is everybody says this. We
yeah,
all
yeah,
read
yeah,
this.
yeah,
This
yeah.
sounds really good in theory.
Yes, I was going to come to that, not
That
right now,
is
but later on.
that
Yeah.
is sometimes that is the farthest thing from the truth.
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
Yep.
And we have to be honest with ourselves.
Yep.
Uh, winning is the byproduct of development. It's about the process, about the journey. Yes, in youth soccer, in theory, that has to be the biggest thing, the main focus, 100%.
Yes.
But that is not the case. That's not the case for so many different reasons. As a coach, I will take accountability and say one of the main reasons is because us coaches, and I have been there myself, where you want to win so bad that one game or whatever, and it comes in the price of sacrificing maybe one or two players playing time, or the way you handle a certain situation, or the way you handle a certain interaction with a parent or an opposition coach. Or it could be one of the other factors that affect it could be the club you're with. One of the factors that affect it could be the players you're coaching with or coaching. So in the everyday life of a coach, it's important to keep that in mind. But I genuinely feel like in the past decade that I've coached, that is not as common as we think it is. It's really not. And this is not to bring down all the good things that are happening, at least in Canada or in Ontario that we coach in. There is a lot of good things happening here. There's a lot of positive steps that are being taken. There's a lot of good stuff happening that's helping um, player development in Ontario. So I'm not
Yep.
trying to take all that down. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of flaws and there's a lot of things that constantly happen in the everyday life of a coach, of a player, of an organization, where that's not the case. And it has to be addressed, it has to be brought up, and it has to be talked about because we all play a role in it. Coaches play a role, clubs play a role, players, parents play a huge role, and to actually implement it and to execute it, it's very, very, very difficult to do.
But again, that comes down to the coach himself or herself, right? um, what you're saying is right. There is an ideal state and there is the current state, and the current state is far from the ideal state. But that's where you, as a coach, need to develop and become better in knowing that what is more important to you. The reason that we get upset on not winning, the reason that we get upset with all of obsess over these things, is because we are passionate, and wherever there is passion, there is competition, and if there is competition, that means you want to win. which is the objective of the game. You have to win by scoring more goals, right? So for players, that's a very good thing because they want to compete. But as a coach, how do you help them compete is important. Do you help them? Do you create a culture in your team where players are constantly competing amongst themselves, getting and then if they don't get the playing time, somebody else gets the playing time, they get jealous over it or they feel bad about it, and maybe in the game they won't pass the ball to that person,
So
right?
it's so hold
So
on. So before you continue, I think it's very important to point out that the context and the level you are in, whether you're a coach or a player or a parent, is extremely important. If you are in a recreational or house league environment, the standards and the outcome is going to be different versus if you're in a competitive environment versus if you're in a high performance environment.
Yep.
Okay, which is the level you're coaching at. You're coaching at high performance in Ontario.
Yeah.
So then, if you're in a competitive or high performance environment, then your goals and your standards and your expectations need to match that environment that you're in.
Yep.
Or that the environment you're trying to create. And if that's the case, then you need to, as a coach, I think you need to, or as an organization, you need to make sure everybody meets at that standard, everybody is in line with the vision, and then you get your players to compete, then you get your players to try to reach to that standard that you're trying to set. However, if you're coaching at a recreational level, at a house league level, the goal is not to win. The goal is to have fun. It's to enjoy.
Yeah.
So, you could be the most passionate coach and you might want to win so bad, and I've done that. Like I did that when I started coaching myself, honestly, personally. And that wasn't the case. Like the players just wanted to come, have fun, play, be with their friends, have a popsicle at the end of the game, and then go home. That was fun. That was the objective. The objective wasn't to win the game. And I can see you're making a face, and I can see you have something to say about that. So
Yeah.
go ahead before you explode.
Yeah, no, what you're saying is debatable, right? Because the game is not changing; it's still the game. As a coach, if you are like really, really good with what you do, you should be able to help these players. I'm not saying now. There is the difference because you people get it wrong. You think that you are passionate. You think that you want to win, so you start telling your players, and then you say under the umbrella that no, I want them to become better, I want to change the culture and all of that. There's a thin line. Like you have to get the buy-in for the players. You have to create an environment where players would want to compete and take up that sport as something more than what they are currently looking at it. It's not like they come there just to come and kick. Yes, it's the fun for which they are there, but of course there will be one or two players who might want more, and maybe as a coach you will be able to get that out of them, right? You will not be able to transform that recreational team into a high performance team, but one or two players who could go there but are not being able to because they are in that environment. They have been growing up, they have been in the same environment where it's more fun to just come, go there, play. But it's really about how you inculcate that passion as a coach. Like maybe something strikes in one or two players, and they're like, okay, no, maybe I want to do something more about it.
And then as a coach, then you've done your job, because then that one or two players, they will then go and play competitive now.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've kind of graduated those players to the next step.
Yes.
And so you shouldn't be sacrificing a whole team
No.
or a whole environment. You just have to get those players to do the best they can do there,
Yeah.
have fun, and if they want more, then they go to the next step. Same thing.
Yeah.
When you're coaching the competitive level, there's going to be 2, 3, 5 players that are going to want more, that are going to want to compete more serious and passionate about the game. Then they go to the next step.
Yep. What do you think is the challenge that youth players might face, given the environment that they grew up in? Let's say we are talking about Canada right now, right? For 6 months, players will be playing outside. In They have access to outdoor fields, they have access to the field space and everything. But then for 6 months, they go indoors where there's nothing. So, do you
No,
think?
it's not. There's
Of course.
nothing.
I mean, there
There's
is
something.
lesser space. There is. I'm not saying there is nothing. There is lesser space. We are going indoors. But do you
Okay.
think that possesses a challenge to players or their development?
In their development.
Yeah.
So it depends again which players you're talking about. So in terms of recreational or competitive, I think players playing indoors, players playing futsal, players playing in the gym, if they're playing recreational or competitive where the expectation is 1 to 2 sessions a week, I don't think it necessarily uh, impacts the development negatively. If anything, I think it could impact it positively because they would get to play, for example, futsal. I'm a big fan of futsal. I think futsal is huge in soccer player development. I know this is a crucial topic and not everybody agrees with that, but I personally do. However, if we're talking about OPDL or the high performance here in Ontario, I think it it's a little bit, to me, I'm jumping from things to things here, but to me, it makes zero sense for OPDL not to have a futsal league. If you're an OPDL player, you don't. Your season ends in end of September, beginning of October. There's nothing, no competition unless you go into tournaments or friendly games until next year May.
Yeah.
So for 5 6 months, you're not really competing.
Yeah.
And talking about player development, they need to compete. They
Yeah.
need to be in that high performance, high pressure environment. So it makes, I don't understand why OPDL does not have a futsal league
Okay,
in the winter.
so of course these are things that the players cannot control. But if I am a player and I want to commit myself and become better and better, better, so, and this is the question that I'm asking you: how do I, when I go into the winter season, I don't have access to the fields outside. I rely on the club training, or I rely on the external third-party training from different organizations that to get better, right?
Yeah.
Now, how do I use this to my advantage, or how do I still continue to improve in, given that there are things that are beyond my control? Like, let's keep the league on the side. Let's keep the kid cannot control the climate. So what do you think a player should do in such a situation? How can they still commit to improving?
I think as a player, you need to maximize your resources.
Huh?
Whether you have access to an indoor space where you go play and train, whether you have access to additional third party training, you go do that. Whether you have access to, whether you have some friends, 5 6 7 friends that want to get together, go find an indoor space and play and train there together. I think whatever you have access to, whatever your resources are, you have to work with what you have.
Yeah.
As a player, as a kid.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
Your parents, your club, the people around you need to support you as much as possible, and not everybody has the same resources, and that's unfortunate again, which is why an association like Ontario Soccer or Canada Soccer needs to be a little bit better in that sense. It's so huge. Uh, but you have to do, as a player, you have to work with what you have. And yes, it's not the ideal situation. Yes, it's going to be unfair. You're going to have teammates that have access to better training, that have access to more coaches, that have access to, you know, time wise, more number of hours and days per week, let's say, or per month. But all you can do is do the best you can do, but really do that. Like, if you have an extra 1 hour per week, are you really truly maximizing that as much as you can, or do you just show up, you kick the ball around, and you call it you train? Did you really take, full advantage of every second of that, every minute of that, every hour, so that you actually at the end of the session, you look at yourself, you're like, you know what, today I pushed myself, today I learned a little bit more, today I trained a little bit harder, today I added something to myself. And maybe, if when you zoom in you don't see that, it's not obvious, but if you add those 1 hours for the duration of 6 months, it's going to show. You're going to already be probably better than half of your team, if everybody else, or if the other half of the team doesn't have the same mindset. So it goes back to what you were saying, the mentality and the mindset for players needs to be, okay, what do I have access to, what are my opportunities in the winter, let's say, and how can I take full advantage of this, and really set some goals for yourself. This is what I want to achieve by the end of the winter, and I'm going to do everything I can to do this.
I think it's an excellent opportunity also to develop your technical skills where you don't need your teammates. Like when you have time at home, when you have just some time at home, or if there is, let's say, a little bit of a warmer climate, let's say 1 degree, 2 degree, are you still getting out of your house and going into a field or somewhere where you can kick the ball around, just practice on your own, right? It's a good opportunity to technically get better And I think the other also aspect is that, as if we talk about U14, U15, U16 high performance players or competitive players, if they play friendlies during the winter season, which are again scarce, or it's a good time for them to also review the game footage, right? And then try to implement it the next time. And like you said, how do you maximize your resources? This is one of the resources which you have, which a lot of other players or teams outside in the world would not have access to, like recorded games.
We didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I have no
I never
pictures
did.
or videos of me playing as a kid, or even in like high school or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, this is so huge. So this is honestly, this is one of the main reasons why I kind of like went towards EAM.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that players can take advantage of that
Yes.
they don't, and the goal is to guide them. The goal is to help them. So what you're saying is 100% true. Technically, I think every player in Canada can improve.
Yes.
To become as good as kids from South America or as good as players from Europe. 100%. Because why? Because to them, football is life, soccer is life. To us, as a culture, it hasn't been. It's very brand new. So it's going to take a lot of repetition and practice to technically match that. So that we're that comfortable with the ball. Honestly, it's as simple as that. And then studying the game, and then just watching the game.
Just watching, yes.
Just watch on the weekend. Watch
mean,
2 games.
I remember, like, yes, I didn't have access to all of these things when I was U14, U16, but maybe at the U when I was 22, 23, and I was playing in some amateur league, we did have recordings of games, right? Maybe one or two, and not all sometimes. But I used to like wait, like when am I going to play a game which is going to be recorded?
Yeah.
And then I used to know that which moment in the game I performed something good and I performed something bad. So I don't need to watch the entire game, but I go home, I look at the clip, maybe it's on YouTube or somewhere, and I speed up to that moment when I played because I know which moment I played in. And I look at my skill. Okay, I did this good, and I'm really proud of it, and I clip it. But then I also know that there was a moment where I could have done something. Maybe I could have improved my body shape to open up and score a goal, and I did not do it because I took a wrong touch. So I go back and I see, oh, this was the missed opportunity. So I think that's how you can make the most out of these things. Like, just you don't need to go and watch the entire game. Of course, if you have time, you want to, you can. But then you as a player, you have played it.
I think you should though.
You have experienced it. No, I'm just saying, like, depends on what age you are in. I'm talking about, let's say, if you're talking about younger kids who do not want to sit and watch the entire game, it's okay. Just watch yourself in the game, know your moments, go back and see, because you played it. You, out of everyone, even better than the coach, you know what you did on the ground because you played it, you experienced it. So you can go back, you can improve. Of course, watching the game, the
So
best thing to do.
watching the game, but watching the game properly. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If well, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but something I've always thought about. If you are a player that's playing, let's say in the OPDL,
Yeah.
right? High performance.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not cheap. So you should really be there if you really want to be there.
Yeah.
Not because your friend is there, not because your parents are forcing you. Do you really want to compete at that level? Because what's going to happen is you're going to have maybe a few good moments throughout the season, but you're going to have a lot of not so good moments. You're not going to have good practices. You're not going to get as much playing time as you want. You're not going to perform as good as you were hoping. You're going to have tough challenges. You're going to have some teammates maybe that are not being the best teammates towards you. So there's going to be a lot of challenges. The only way you're going to be able to cope with that and actually be able to survive that and improve is if you really want to be there and you accept all those conditions. Now, let's say you do. You accept all those conditions. You're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to play high performance. I want to compete. I want to see how I can improve as a player.
Yeah.
Then your goal needs to be, I need to be selected for the provincial team. That
Okay.
needs to be the objective, the long term seasonal objective. Then you need to have shorter objectives. How do I achieve that? How do I have a chance at the end of the season to be scouted and to be screened and to make the provincial team? Because if that's what you don't want to do, then I don't know. To me, the amount of money you're spending, your parents are spending, it's challenging. Like, why are they spending all that money? Now, yes, you can, you can continue developing this, and 99% of the time, maybe you're not going to achieve that objective. But again, it's about the process. Once you have that standard and set for yourself and that objective, then you need to see, okay, what do I have to do throughout the season, month after month, to be able to achieve that end goal? Again, most likely you may not, but that's the goal. Then you need to, as a player individually, you need to try to be the best player on your team. Because I think we've both experienced this where players come to us, parents come to us, what do I have to do to get more playing time? What do I have to do to be able to perform better? Are you the best player on the team for your position? Because if you are, why would any coach take you off? I want to win at that level. I want my teams to perform good. So why would I take off a player that's performing better than all the players in that position? So, what do players need to do? You need to do, if you're competing at the high performance level and you want to be successful, I think your goal individually need to be, I need to be the best player on the team. I need to be the player that the coach cannot afford to take off. I need to be the player that all my teammates want to play all the time for 80, 90 minutes of the game. Because if I don't play, the team is going to suffer. It's not going to be as good of a team. Now, so that's the next step. Now, what do you do? We go back to the question you asked me. What do you do on your own time on the field with the team, without your teammates, without the coach? What are you doing on your own to actually be that, to achieve that? And there's very few players that can really honestly look at themselves and say, you know what, I'm actually doing everything I can at this moment of time.
Yeah, and I think over here, a coach needs to set the standard. Like, what is the standard for a player to be irreplaceable on the team? Like, if I'm talking about a right winger, what are the qualities as a coach I need? You need to clearly lay it out so that the players know that, okay, are they doing it or are they not doing it? Then they can answer those questions on themselves. If they feel they are doing it, they can have a conversation with the coach. The coach can explain them, okay, you missed out on these aspects I wanted. I'm not saying that needs to be a checklist, but you need to have a clear idea of what your right winger wants and what are you looking for, so you communicate it to the players. The players now know that, okay, these are the things that I need to achieve. If they do it, they are the players. If they don't do it, it's an answer that they have. It's an answer that they can, that it's an answer to their own question, why am I not getting enough playing time? Because you need to work on these aspects. And that's the gap there, because a lot of coaches feel that this is something that's given or this is understood. We are looking at a game from our perspective. We have clear ideas about certain things, but our players, they don't know what is a good thing or what it is not. And plus they are clouded by other people's assumptions or other people's opinions, right? Their own parents, their friends, that, oh, you did this but you still not play, blah blah blah. But it is really important to have this transparent standard or conversation with your players, telling them that these are the things I look for. An ideal situation, you hit all the things, you are not coming off. And of course, the players who want more will get there. If there are some players, there will always be players who are like, okay, this is there, but I don't want to. Then you don't get yourself into this conversation where now you're arguing, because the subjectivity is gone out. It is all listed down, it is all communicated.
But that's not always going to happen. Not every coach is going to be able to deliver that, right?
But
So what we're talking about is, what do the players need to do given their resources, given what they have in hand. As a player, you're not always going to have a coach that's going to be doing what they need to do at all times. They're not going to provide you with certain uh, objectives and standards that you need to follow. So regardless of what your coaches are giving you and telling you, you need to do the stuff on your own. Then it's about the external things. It's about the coaches, it's about the team, it's about the organizations, it's about blah blah blah, all these other things around that player development that need to collectively do a better job to be able to support those players 100%.
And that's why I feel that setting a goal that you want to make the provincials in the first season of your OPDL is not achievable. It's not achievable if you are not at that level already, right? So okay, you are playing OPDL, that's fine, you want to play provincials, or you want to play for your country, or you want to go to an university team, that should be the end goal. Like it's a long term goal. You cannot expect it to hit at the first time. So maybe depending on where you are, maybe you are an amazing player and you can hit it in the first year itself. But I don't think we should associate your develop to the, like, why you're playing OPDL to why you should make to the goal of provincials or whatever, because again there are unknowns, there are things that are not in your control, there are things.
It's just a target.
Yeah, but the
It's just
target should also be achievable. It should be achievable in the sense that you are motivated to achieve it, because now you will obsess over it, you'll work hard, you'll do everything in your power. But then of course it's not something that you can control at the end of the day. What you can control is your effort. What you can control is uh, your your time and effort, right? So
so
having
let me
it.
simplify. Let me simplify it. Sorry to cut you off. So this is like, imagine the World Cup,
Yeah,
right? Brazil's in the World Cup, Germany's in the World Cup, Spain's in the World Cup,
yeah,
Iran is in the World Cup.
yeah.
I'm from Iran.
Okay.
Obviously, Iran doesn't go into the World Cup thinking they're going to win the World Cup because it's not achievable, right? But Iran needs to say, okay, I'm going into a competition with the likes of Spain, Germany, Brazil,
No, why
Argentina.
can't they believe that they can
One
win the
second,
World
one
Cup?
second. I'm going into a competition
Yeah,
competing against the likes of these strong
right.
candidates to win the World Cup.
Yes.
I need to set goals for myself so that I can continue progressively get better and be able to compete with them, right?
Okay.
And eventually, if I do that, one day, we might be able to go farther and farther and farther, and maybe one day we can win the World Cup,
Yeah.
as a nation.
Yeah.
That could be in 6 years, that could be in 60 years.
Yeah.
Nobody knows this. But you don't go into the World Cup saying, oh, I'm just here to compete and whatever.
No, they go into the World Cup thinking that they need to win it.
Exactly, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So
But
if you're a player
yes.
competing in the OPDL, in the high performance environment,
Yeah.
you need to go into that thing saying, okay, it's a Ontario Player Development League. It's an individual based player development league.
Yeah.
You need to say, I want to be the one of the best players in the province. I want to make the provincial team.
How
I
about
might make that at the end of this season, or I might make this if I started at U13. I might make it when I'm U17.
but both these cases are not comparable because uh, you're talking about professional footballers who are past their development, who are playing in a World Cup, for whom those things are achievable. You know, there are miracles that happen. Now we are talking about, on the other hand, we're talking about players who are still developing, who don't know a lot of the things that they need to become whatever to achieve. So there are a lot of unknowns, a lot of conditions that you were talking about. Having that goal is okay; it's not a problem, but I personally feel it depends on where the player is in their stage. If they are outdoing everyone in their environment, then they should have it as their goal because they are outdoing everyone. But if they're not outdoing everyone, they're not able to even take a good first touch, then it's not good to expect or to set that goal that at the end of this season I want to get there. Maybe you set it after 2 years, 3 years. It depends on you. For this
Absolutely.
season, your goal then should be that okay, in these are the things that I'm struggling with. Of course, a coach, a parent, and everyone should help you with that. That okay, a lot of these qualities, a lot of your bad habits are associated with these skills, or these skills you need to develop. Then you have that development plan with the coach. You discuss them, and then you work towards that, towards achieving it. So let's say I'm a midfielder. A midfielder should be good at passing the ball, should be good at receiving it in tight spaces, right? So if I'm not good at it already, then I cannot set a goal which is result oriented. Now I need to set a goal where maybe my pass completion each game should be so and so percentage. I should be hitting 4 accurate passes out of the 5. First game you won't achieve it, next game you won't achieve it, third game you won't achieve it. Keep working, and then someday you achieve it, right? And then you become a player on your own. Now the good part is maybe on your 10th game where you had 100% pass completion, somebody from the province was watching a game. That person is going to assume that you are an amazing standard player and maybe scout you for or screen you. Okay, you're in for provincial screening. I'm not saying that's how it happens. I'm just giving you an example. Maybe you had 2 games good out of 20 games where you were amazing and that's you were lucky. Again, that's luck that you got into the provincial screening. That's not because you were amazing to go with, but then you get an opportunity. So I think the more important part is being ready for these opportunities that might come your way. And the only way to be ready is by constantly trying to improve.
I agree with everything you're saying, and these are so I have personally worked with a few players through EAM,
Yep.
where we have set similar uh, goals and objectives.
Yes.
Okay, how many, what position are you playing? Striker or center mid? Okay, as a center mid, how many minutes are you playing right now? Oh, I'm only playing 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, let's improve that to 40 to 60 minutes within the next month. Can you do that? In order to do that, what do you have to? Okay, maybe you're completing 60% of your passes. Maybe let's move that to 70, 75 in the next 2 weeks, in the next 3, 4 games.
Yep.
Step by step things that players can aim towards, that they feel like they can achieve.
Yes.
So they stay encouraged and they don't get discouraged. I 100%
Yep.
agree with you. The point what I was trying to bring up is you need to you need to if you're in that environment, you need to have some sort of plan and vision that
Yep.
I want to go as far as I can.
Yep.
And now that I have that direction, or that upward direction, what do I have to do in between now and in between achieving that very long term objective or goal, and then get to work.
Yes.
And there might be, for me, because I'm a worse player than you, maybe I have 30 things to achieve between now and that goal. Maybe you have 10 things to achieve. So I have to now individually look at myself. I need to work with my coach. I need to work with my parents. I need to work with whatever I want or whatever I have to be able to maximize my opportunities and maximize my success.
True.
And because if I don't have that direction, if I don't have those objectives and goals, and if I'm not honest about it, then I'm just participating. And if you just want to participate,
Then there are better other
there are other options. There are
Yes.
better options, better environments, or you're just uh you're you're gonna you're gonna get discouraged as a player. You're not gonna enjoy the process because
True.
it is competitive. You're signing up to be at a high competition, at a
Yes.
high performance competition. So you can't then go and say, why am I not getting this much playing time? Because you're not completing as many passes as you should be completing in your position. If I'm a center mid and I keep losing the ball, I can't go to the coach and say, Coach, why am I not playing as much?
I mean, yeah, you wouldn't, but you know the current situation.
Right?
Yeah.
And as coaches, as teachers, as parents, as mentors, we need to be honest with players and with teams, and we need to be open, because that's the most honest way to actually be transparent with players and to positively be able to help in their development.
Yes.
But I want to go back to us talking about, well, specifically OPDL. The reason why we're talking about OPDL is because we've coached in that for a long time.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the season schedule? Do you think there can be competition between, at least, yeah, I understand you need a month or two break, give players a break to go do whatever they need to do, but shouldn't there be a winter competition for OPDL teams?
I feel, yeah, there should be some sort of competition because again we're talking about young kids, right? They need to play more games. We're not talking about U8 older kids who there's a regular season, then there's an off season, then you still have training. We're talking about kids. They need to play.
Yeah.
The only way they get better is by playing more, and again, yes. So I don't know how the logistics and everything would work in a league which goes the year way around. I don't know how the people who are investing the time, how does it affect them? How much they need to invest in terms of time, in terms of money, because a lot of kids depend on their parents to take them to training, off training, right? So the load will not only be on the players but their families as well.
I don't think families that sign up for OPDL would mind. Listen, we talk about in Canada, we're inside, there's not enough access to turf fields, whatever, it's expensive.
Yeah.
The best way to take advantage of it is through futsal. Ontario Soccer has been talking about reducing the 11v11 to 11v11 to 9v9 for U13 teams, OPDL teams. I personally agree with that. I think it should be done because I think an 11v11 field is way too huge for players to be able to actually execute and get as much success as possible. You have players that don't touch the ball for minutes in a game. Anyways, that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
But it also aligns with that. Smaller space, smaller number of players on the team, more touches, more exposure, more goals, more passes, more shots, more saves. Those are the benefits futsal brings. And if you're in a country, if you're in an environment when you have 4 to 6 months winters, you can't get outside. It's expensive to get outside. There is no competition. You are already an organization that offers futsal, which means you believe in futsal. Then why not create a OPDL futsal league where OPDL teams compete in it for 2 3 months? There's competition, just like the OPDL league, the summer league, and um, I think that yes, it's not 11v11, but there's that competition
But
structure.
I think we do have a futsal tournament every winter.
It's
And
not on OPDL specific.
it is on. No, not for OPDL specifically, but for all Ontario players.
Yeah, there is.
So irrespective of whether you play OPDL, you play anywhere, you can put a team in and you can play.
But not a lot of OPDL teams sign up to that.
Yeah, they don't. That's a different thing. But there is an opportunity for them to sign up.
But it has to be
You'll have to
structured.
put in like 2 or 3 teams to
Exactly.
accommodate your OPDL team.
Exactly. So there has to. That's exactly right. So there has to be a structure. It has to be organized, and it has to be so that all clubs in the OPDL can take advantage of that, and it's fair.
Okay,
That's the job
specifically
of
for
an
OPDL.
association. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, it's mind-boggling to me, but that's a different conversation. Again, there's a lot of good things happening. Honestly, like once again, back in my home country, youth soccer is not disorganized.
Yeah.
There's so much talent. It's not structured, right?
Yeah.
That's why even in the national team, there's so much corruption and it's not structured. That's why there's not much success.
True.
But here we have a lot of good things happening. It's just if we want to continue improving and competing and have a chance against the best in the world,
Yep.
we need to continue working on how we can get better and better. And as a nation, as a association here in Ontario, I think that's something that's lacking. Everybody's complaining about it. Every team, every club, every player, every coach is constantly during the winters trying to find competition and to try to, you know, play as much as possible. And it's one of the things that can be done, in my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it will be done, like eventually. Like I believe that at least OSA is much ahead of the other provincial organizations that are out there, right, within the country. So I guess everyone is improving continuously, and it will change for sure. When? I don't know.
So basically, the purpose of all this yapping and talking was if you're a player, depending on what it is that you want individually,
Yeah.
you should set goals for yourself. You should see the resources that you have,
Yeah.
what you can control as a player, as an individual, and have a mindset of okay, I want to set certain goals for myself this season, and I want to do everything I can to achieve those goals. And that means training, that means your intensity, that means your attitude, that means you reaching out and getting help from your friends, from your coaches, from your club. You take that initiative and ownership,
And
and
accountability.
don't just wait for the outside
Yes.
factors to come and reach out to you or help you. If you're a coach listening, you need to create that environment. It's part of your responsibility, it's part of your job, that's what you have signed up for. It's part of your role to be able to create an environment as best as you can, giving your restrictions, to be able to help as many players that you're in charge of as best as possible. And again, we all know coaches have their own restrictions and their own problems, and you know, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, we're not always on, we're not always delivering the best we can, but that has to be the objective for us. As clubs and organizations, we need to also support the players in their development, support the coaches in their delivery and in their development. And I think there's a lot of clubs that are doing a decent job with that and can always improve, obviously. And if you're Ontario Soccer or Canada Soccer, as many competition as possible, at least from the competitive above, as cheap as possible,
As cheap as possible, as accessible
as
possible.
accessible as possible, because that's the other thing that's a big issue is
Yeah.
not everybody can afford to play. I couldn't. I when we moved to Canada, I begged my father, please sign me up. I want to play on a team, and he literally just looked at me and said, I don't have money. Go outside and play, and that's what I did. So I could never play. No, I'm serious. I could never play organized sport, soccer. I mean, I only wanted to play soccer. I could never do it because we couldn't afford it. So make it accessible, like you're saying, and slowly we all work together. and hopefully we continue getting better as a nation.
You forgot to mention a very important part.
What?
One very important stakeholder in this:
What?
the parents. What is your message for them?
Listen, without parents, none of this can be possible.
Yeah.
Without parents, there's no players. Without parents, there's no structure and organization because they pay a lot of money for this,
Yeah.
especially in the environment we're in. So they're already doing a big part of it, and they're doing great. The biggest message I can have for the parents is don't make decisions for your sake for your kids. Uh, put your kid in the right environment that they actually truly want to be in, and that can change from time to time. In 1 year, a player might want to play recreational. 2 years from now, they want to go and compete, and they're more engaged and interested. So actually, listen to your players' needs and wants, and then support the coaches. Let the coaches do their job. Again, coaches, they're not always on top of their game. Not all coaches are Pep Guardiola or Jose Mourinho or whatever, Mikel Arteta. Just trust them. Know that they're also there because of their passion.
Yeah.
They're trying to do the best they can, and just be supportive. You have to work with the coaches, with the players, and with the clubs to for this to actually progress and to be a positive thing. If those two go against each other, whether it's parents and clubs or parents and coaches or parents and players, then it starts going sideways very quickly, and um, you can't. We all have to do everything we can to be a positive force in the players' development for the players.
Yep.
That's literally our job. Coaches, parents, clubs, everybody. That's what we're trying to do. And if we're doing anything that's affecting that negatively, then we need to stop it.
True.
I mean, I'm not a parent yet, so I can't. There's definitely parents right now listening saying, "What do you know? What do you know? What my kid wants?"
Yeah.
And maybe that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know your kid as much as you know your kid, but just it's something to discuss. And I don't mean anything bad or negative.
Yeah. That can be an entirely separate topic for our.
Thanks for coming on this drive with me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If you have listened to us for 1 minute or for the whole time, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.